Hey, Ketones, how's it going? It's Sunday night. Jennifer Marie and Dr. Boz, how are you guys doing? Oh my gosh, we've got people that jumped on immediately. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Angela. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love Sunday nights. Okay, Boz, I'm wearing a tank top. You're wearing a jacket. What is up with that?
A turtleneck and a zipper, quarter zip. And then I just took off my coat. Yeah, 26 inches of snow this past week. And that's not exaggerating. Oh my goodness, our poor state is like drowning.
You said 26.
Yes, and that wasn't the highest one, but it was a dumpage of unbelievable wet spring snow. And I am looking at Texas.
Oh my God. You guys, I'm trying to get her to come visit me. Especially, I actually sent her a picture of us out on the boat this weekend. I text her a picture. And then, of course, we had a bad storm right after that. And I'm like, yeah, in Texas, you can get 4 changes of weather in one day. So go figure. So you guys, I want to start with something because I know you guys can probably tell me some non-scale victories. So I was just telling Dr. Boz, I said I had a situation last week. It was star testing here in Texas. And my daughter texted me right after I dropped her off at school. And she's like, oh my God, I forgot to put on deodorant. And that's like first world problem for teenagers. First world. And then her second text right after that was, I'm heading into the test. I'm heading into testing. I can't talk anymore. And I'm like, what did she want me to do? Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I don't know. So I picked her up from school after testing was over because you cannot interrupt them. You cannot go up to the school. It's testing day. They don't care if you forgot deodorant. So I picked her up and I said, well, you look fine. I imagined sweating. I don't know what I imagined. She goes, do you know what? Keto, you don't have any body odor. She goes, I was a little wet, but it didn't smell like anything. And I'm like, that is a non-scale victory. So I was starting to think about that myself. I was like, you know what? There has been days that I've forgotten deodorant, and I may put it on like every other day now just because it depends on if I'm outside. But it's not that important anymore. So tell me, I want everybody who's on right now, I want you to tell me what your non-scale victory is. Because I think we forget those things. I didn't even think that, I don't remember having body odor smells anymore. Where I used to be the person that would take 2 and 3 showers a day in the summer, especially if I'm out gardening and sweating and yeah. So
yeah, you might die if you do that in South Dakota. Like, it's cold enough, your sweat just freezes.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, we had weather up in the near 80s today, so it's really nice.
But so the term non-scale victories, what that really encompasses is any benefit that you've had from keto that's not related to the scale, right?
That's right.
So I've heard the term before, and I've seen some discussions on it, but that's got good lingo. So I can't wait to see what the comments are on that.
We share in the group in Low Carb Inspirations plus Keto Friendly Recipes. We share NSVs all the time, and I get so emotional still when somebody posts the picture of them sitting in the airplane seat and they have this massive amount of belt that's left where before they couldn't even buckle it. I remember crying tears of joy thinking, not only can I buckle it, it wasn't at the last notch, but I have all this room left. And I'm like, oh my God, I remember crying. It was an emotional moment. So those are NSVs, non-scale victories. Look, Patty said, headaches gone. Let's see. Sandra says, I was able to zip up my boots with jeans tucked in, never before. Diane says, I can see my wrist bones.
That's awesome.
My thighs no longer touch. Man, I can relate to almost every single one of these. I mean, yeah, it's awesome. Awesome.
Those are fighting words. You got a thigh gap. Like those are like, that's a status symbol now. That's amazing.
It is. It is. So do you have any non-scale victories, Dr. Bob?
I was thinking one of the best things that got me onto keto and has been, again, the reason why I use it so often is it's the mental things. And when I look back at times when kids would wake me up in the middle of the night, or I'd have that kind of whatever, something wakes you in the middle of the night, and then not being able to get back to sleep just because you couldn't shut off your brain, or it was like just enough. And I think of it as swelling, that I just couldn't shut back down. And I woke up the other night. Actually, it was after somebody used a lot of sugar substitute in a dessert they gave me.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I am allergic, and I did not know it.
Oh
So
no.
I was up like 2 or 3 times, and I could not believe that I went back to sleep. And it was one of those, oh, my brain did not used to do that. I mean, years, but then it doesn't for many years. And then and keto, I'm able to shut down so easy, like the control of what I want my brain to do, and then just to watch it play out in life. Like that would have wrecked a whole other day of getting up that many times in the night and feeling sick. And you're like, oh wow, that's easy.
That's pretty powerful too. And it's funny how that's normal life. Like now that we're eating healthier and things like this happen, it becomes so normal. Like the body odor story, I was like, I didn't even think of that as a thing anymore. Where it's been a huge thing. It's just become normal now. So
well, and that's a great little teaser for a teen. They don't think about that. But and I don't even know that I've used that as a selling point. Like, why would you do this? But you're right. That is one of the advantages.
oh yeah. Yeah. There's so many. It's like, I feel like most people do this for weight loss, or that's how they hear about it. But all the other benefits become so much more important. Like you just did a video with acne with your son.
Ha, yes, that's another one.
That's a huge selling point for a teen.
Wow. I absolutely became the woman who knew nothing. I knew nothing because I'm the mom, right? And then finally, he's so frustrated with the way his acne looks that I just said, look, I will shut up for 2 weeks. I won't say a thing to you about your acne as long as you do this. And 3 days later, he's like, I had no idea you were right. So he even said in the video, I'm not going to lie, I did not believe her.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
It was a great video, and he did a good job. He did not want to do that. And so I was glad he just I'm like, no, it's a really good story for other people to hear, because you're right. The thing that gets promoted is the weight loss, but it's so much more than that. So much more than that.
Speaking of that, if you guys could share this video out, share it to the keto groups that you're part of, share it to your friends, share it to your wall, so that other people can understand that there's more to keto. There's so much more, that it almost is just like the weight loss is the side benefit, because it is so important for anyone wanting to learn. And we do these shows so that we can teach people that there are a lot of benefits to it. So if you could share that, that would mean the world to us.
I also think it would be great. I now have found the button where I can see people's comments, so I feel like I've leveled up my viewing here. And I want to see. Maybe you've done this before, but I would love to see again for those of you that have bought Jennifer's book, because we are counting down. We're not quite in single digits before it comes out, right?
No, Easy Keto for busy people. Keto-friendly recipes.
And she had a huge success this last week where she had a Costco order.
Reorder, right? But Sam's placed. No. Sam's. Well, it's going to be in Walmart, which is a big deal. It's going to be in Costco, which is a big deal. But Sam's placed a huge order of 12,000 copies, and from what I understand, they're going to put it on an end cap, which is for bestsellers. And that's a big deal in placement, from what I understand. I know nothing about this world, but it's a big deal. So
there's a couple of little comments on there that talk about what's too young for keto. And that's really great that you're asking that, because tonight we're going to talk about teenagers and some of the caveats of questions I get. Yep. But what's too young for keto? Last night I attended a local fundraiser for type 1 diabetes, and how they are using keto to keep their sugars stable in type 1 diabetes. The perfect sugar average is 83. And that's for a type 1 growing child. In adults, you can get it even lower than that. But for type 1 diabetics, they have it as 83. And the name of the organization is Let It Be 83, or Let Me Be 83. And so if you want to see some inspiring videos of these little kids, like 5 years old, type 1 diabetes, sugars all over the place, the family goes keto and their sugars stabilize. And you're like, my medicines cannot do that. That is incredible. And it was so inspiring. So the question on the list was, how young can you go? I'm like, I would highly recommend that parents model this behavior. Start with the parents, because nothing works better than parents being keto to help the kids. But yeah, you can take this down to a very young age for, especially after watching those patients from yesterday. That was amazing.
Oh, I love stories like that. So Wendy says, my 9-year-old son had great success with keto. Awesome. So my daughter started modeling my behavior after I did it. And she asked me, hey, Mom, is this something I can do? And this was 2 years ago. So I didn't know. I was like, oh, I don't like the idea. And she was 12. So I didn't like the idea of a 12-year-old being on a diet. So we don't use that word diet around here. It's just, do you want to change the way you eat? Do you want to make healthy choices? I actually talked to a therapist about this, of what it does to the psyche. Like, there's some interesting, like if you say cheat, you don't ever want to say cheat. You want to say treat, because cheat is a negative word that it means you're doing something bad. And if you're going to treat yourself, it's real life. And if you're going to treat yourself, if you choose to treat yourself once a week, it's a treat. It's not a cheat. You are not doing something bad. This is life. You don't want any eating disorders here. So
I think, one of the things when advising for teenagers, and I have teenagers at my house. I have 4 teenagers. One is a foreign exchange student who had a phone call with her mom yesterday saying, I've learned how to cook, but all I know how to cook is keto.
That's the best time to cook.
I'm like, perfect. You won't die. You're going to totally be sustainable. But I have, my teenage boys are 18, 16, or 15, almost 16, and 12, 13 in another week. But they've been keto since grandma had cancer, which was now 3.5 years ago. And as a family, this is what we do. And obviously they don't have to be as strict as a type 1 diabetic, but I'm impressed at how much, as they've grown through these last 3.5 years, how many of their friends have struggled just with weight gain in a teenage years.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, my kids have not. And not that we don't have temptations and screw it up, but it's amazing when mom and dad really show the behaviors and how powerful that ability to say no, and the changes in why would I do that for my teenagers? Because this is about decreasing inflammation, improving brain performance, the mood regulations that are associated with, not just stable sugars, but a whole heck of a lot less insulin when they don't put so many carbs in. And there's nothing better than a less moody teenager. I'll take that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know how that is.
Absolutely. So I'm looking through here I wanted to see who on this comment section has bought her book, and I am either scrolling the wrong direction or I didn't get to that part of the list yet.
You know what? There's so many comments.
So many. I'm like, I think I was scrolling the wrong direction. That's my bad.
There's so many comments.
So the one question about teenagers they ask is, well, do you give them fruit and berries? And I don't do that at my house. There's plenty of ways that they get all the vitamins they need with a well-balanced ketogenic diet. We do eat things like liver and bone broth, so very nutrient dense foods. Braunschweiger is something that's in my fridge. And those are real. Those are things that as a parent, I want their palate to at least have tasted them. Knowing that that's one of the predictors for whether or not they'll eat it as an adult is whether or not we did that. So, there's one. Good job. She bought the book. Yay. That's a big deal. Now, supporting Jennifer for all she does. I really, really want to be the voice of saying, great cookbook. First of all, Jennifer is to cooking what I am to medicine. And I have promoted this because she does a great job of teaching. So
thank you to all that have pre-ordered. And I hope that you got your pre-orders. I hope you redeemed the pre-order bonuses, because if I didn't tell you, we have a huge book This is a digital thing that you'll get. This is 3 months worth of meal plans, and it's absolutely beautiful when you print it out. It's just as big as the book, so you can get that at lowcarb-inspirations/pre-order if you haven't redeemed those for those who have ordered. So, yay!
Fantastic.
Yay!
Well, so I think we need to start with a couple of things where we were talking about teenagers this past week, and you had a teenager that we were talking about improving her magnesium, and we're like, yeah, but she doesn't want to go to a float, and I understand that. And so I said, I need you to go to Campbell Supply, and there's this little great trick that I do in my house, and I grew up on a farm, and I said, well, so there's this thing called a cow tank heater. And this is if you're going to feed cows in the wintertime around here and you don't want the water to freeze, you put this in the tank, and it doesn't it keeps the tank from freezing solid. So it's called a cow tank heater, and there's a whole row of them. And so you put you put some water in a bucket. In fact, in my little work area, I put it inside a trash bin, and then I fill it like 3/4 full, and I put like 2 big bags of magnesium in it. I put the cow tank heater in there. I heat it up, and then I soak my feet in magnesium dense water, warm water, when I'm doing writing or doing charts or something. And so I said, oh, Jennifer, you just need to do this. You need to go to Campbell Supply and get a cow tank heater. Why don't you tell them what happened?
Okay, so first of all, I did not grow up on a farm, and you did not show me that device. So I walked into what we have up the street in the city is what we call Tractor Supply. So I walk in, and I'm like, hey, can you help me with something? Sure. You need a cow tank heater.
You're in Texas.
They're like, I said, do you know what that is? And they go, yeah, we know what that is. I don't think you're going to find that this time of year. And I'm like, well, okay. They go, if we had any, they're either sold out or they're probably put way in the back because it's end of season. We're not in the season for those. And they're like, now we have to know what you're using it for because we know
you're probably not putting it in a cow tank.
They knew immediately. And I was like, well, it's more for like medical. And they're like, no.
My doctor said to go get it.
They were like, I'm sure they were talking about me when I left. And in fact, they were so nice that they went in the back to try and look at these pallets that they store stuff where it's out of season. I told Dr. Boz this story, and I swear I could hear the laughter all the way from South Dakota to Texas. She died. I was like, I had to go on Amazon to order it.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll tell you, it works great. So when you're stuck at home and you just want, first of all, warm water for your feet is great. Now there is a key though. You heat up the water, then you take the heater out, and then you put your feet in. But I'm telling you, that thing heats up that bucket of water in like 6 minutes. It's like the fastest heater ever. So I don't have to like plan out, and it's just slick. So then I've got my magnesium, and I'll like soak my feet probably 8 or 10 times before then I'll change the water and do it again. So It's really easy. Okay.
For those who need actual steps, let's walk through this because we don't want anybody burning their feet on a cow tank heater. Like, let's walk through this. Okay, you take a gigantic trash bin. What, yes. Like 40?
Like the ones where you put under the desk, like the ones that are rectangle and they're plastic usually.
Okay.
So if your feet can fit in those, right?
Yes. So then what is that? Like a 20-gallon?
I don't know. It's one of those little ones that goes under the desk. So,
the little ones. Oh, yeah. Okay. A kitchen one, I think, is like 13 gallons. So you're talking little.
Yeah. It's less than 5 gallons. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the small ones that you can fit your feet in. So you put the water, and then
you put like a full 2 bags of magnesium in because you want really dense magnesium
before you heat it.
Yep, before you heat it. Okay. And so then you've got the water mixed, which is like if you've ever done a magnesium soak, the hardest part is do you have the salt? And then mixing it up, and then if the water gets cold, then it's not enjoyable. So so if I'm gonna go get set up, I'll go put the cow tank heater in the water. I'll turn it on, and then I'll go mix my like tea or whatever, and that takes about 6 or 7 minutes. And by the time I get back, my water's warm, and I pull the thing out, turn it off, and I put my feet in there while I soak them in magnesium water. And it's great. It's a great little trick.
You guys, nobody else in this world could get me to spend just under $50 on a heater on Amazon that's made for cows. Other than Dr. Bob.
It is the best little hack though, because there's like something like calming too about like just warm feet, magnesium, and I got my game going on if I got all that stuff.
Well,
yeah,
I might even do a little video about it because this is so interesting to me. I think I'm getting it I think I get it tomorrow actually.
Oh, perfect.
But the magnesium, I buy the big bags. I think they're $5 at Walmart. I get 2 of those. I'm going to get a brand new clean trash can.
Well, it is really amazing too, because I thought, oh, would it melt the plastic or something? But it really doesn't. They're designed to heat the water, and
well,
so fast.
I was asking these people at Tractor Supply, like, how did the cows not get burned? Like will they touch it with their lips? Like they were laughing at me. But
I'll show you this. So there's the heating coil inside, and then this is your protective thing outside. So then the little cows don't have to get anywhere near that.
Okay. So you put it in there, you warm it up, you take it out before you put your feet in. And then it stays warm for, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's really like nice warm water. So I can sit there and type for probably an hour or so with pretty warm water, and then maybe I'll reheat it once if I'm sitting for longer.
So the beauty of this tip is that salt spas, they're kind of pricey. Now, don't get me wrong. I would tell you to go to a salt spa. And here in Texas, here in Austin, actually, they have a deal where on the 11th of every month, they give veterans a free float, which I think is amazing.
Oh.
Yeah, I think I tell every vet I know about that deal because it's a big deal. Now
it is the first ones you do, it's kind of weird because you're like, I'm doing what? But I'm like, yep, just take you in your birthday suit and you float in that magnesium, and they sleep better and they feel better, and you like detox from all the noise in the world. And like I think of the float is the new massage, and I'm like, like it is time out, and there's some actually therapy involved in that. Like the magnesium is actually therapeutic. So
yeah, but when you have teens that are busy in school and homework and stress and star test and no deodorant, like there's a thing. So this is a really neat hack. And I specifically do need this for my daughter. She's had surgery on both of her feet. She does need magnesium, and she takes it, but she really needs it absorbed through her skin. So I am going to use this tip. So
yeah, and it's easy. I'll tell you, I've had my kids do it too. So yeah, once they get in the habit of it, especially once you get past a low magnesium, keeping magnesium normal is pretty easy. But when they're low, it's a long journey, like 4 or 5 different approaches before sometimes you get them over the threshold of saying, okay, now they finally feel better.
Wow.
So don't give up on that. That cramping is absolutely correlated to magnesium until proven otherwise. And then I'd have to like arm wrestle you over it, saying it really is that big of a predictor.
Yeah, we went through a bout of taking magnesium orally too much. You hit that level where I know. And I told her, I said, okay, we've got to figure out your level. We know you have a serious need for magnesium with your feet hurting the way they do. So here's 1, here's 2. How are you going to the bathroom? Because if it turns into a disaster, I need to know right away. Mm-hmm. Next day, I gave her 2. It still didn't affect her. I gave her that calming, that drink, Nature's Calm, I think. She's like, found my limit.
We're there. Tapped out. Thank you very much.
Poor thing. Oh my gosh. So do you, we have a slide deck on teens.
Yes. So I'm going to tee this up with a little bit. So I had a couple of questions come in, and they were folks from your channel and my channel, but it was on girls with keto. Then my son's teenage acne thing came out. So there was some other teenage things there. And I had, they were talking about mood with teenagers, and I wanted to use, I think it's about 7 slides that just show you some things about brains that In fact, I will make an announcement that I just got invited to come to Texas to do my brain lecture. It is in
Houston.
not in, yeah, thank you. I'm like, which one was it? Yeah, it's in Houston, and they don't have a date set, but it's like the first week in May, somewhere in there. So my 2-day workshop, and I think the sponsor is going to have it free to the public. So that's just a huge deal. It's a 4-day seminar, and I'm 2 of the 4 days is what I think is the deal. But what a cool experience. And anyway, so that's coming. But it was like the whole week was filled with lots of brain questions. And so when I was thinking about today, there's several folks that I know are watching tonight, and I don't want to out them, but I really want them to hear. I have 3 sons and I have a foreign exchange daughter. There's a few, but I get to watch moods do all kinds of things, not just in my clinic, but also in my home. And there are a few things about a girl's brain as it goes through puberty and as it goes through those teenage years that I think should be a better message that's not being said. So yes, I do recommend a ketogenic diet for anybody who's having especially moody brains. But in my family, it's just, if you're going to be in my family, you're going to be part of this. I'm here to protect your brain. When you move out, if you choose not to do it, that's your deal, but you're going to see the benefits of it while you're living with me. But there's another thing that has happened in our family too, and that is I've had 2 of my sons at one point were anemic. And if you watch brain development on anemia, it was weird for boys to be anemic. They shouldn't be anemic. But there was some other things surrounding that chapter. They were in the 3rd and 4th grade, so that was much younger. But it brought me to several of the lectures that talk about, if you want to see a girl's brain do the worst, watch what happens when she gets anemic. And so I use this slide deck to say, we're going to teach through the slide deck, and then I'm going to come back to this teenage girl with anemia and why I'm showing you brain scans when talking about that. So let's see. That's our little brain guy from last. This is to remind me that we're talking about teenage brains that are kind of in a slump. So go to the next slide. So these are something called SPECT scans, and you'll see those used to watch brains function. So this is a normal SPECT scan, and I have, wherever you see pink, you can think of eyeballs. So in the right lower corner, you're kind of looking down on the brain. In the right left corner, the patient's kind of looking to the left. The one in the upper left-hand corner, it's as if you're looking at the underside of the brain, and the one up in the upper right, the patient's looking to the right. So if you go to the next one, here's an example of a normal brain. And then this was an 18-year-old kid who had a baseball injury, that got a baseball hit to the head. And that's a 6-month-old injury from a severe concussion that the brain never got repaired. It's a very great teachable moment to say his brain's still alive. If you went to autopsy, it's not a hole. It is that the brain isn't functioning right in that area. It's not conducting, I'm going to say electricity, but it's not conducting messages or using glucose like it's supposed to. So go to the next slide. And this is one of those, over time, our brains do this little dimple effect. If you took those brains to autopsy, they would all look smooth and normal. But what you see in those different images is, as we age, our brains make choices about which cells to keep awake and alive. And a lot of that is dependent upon the inflammation and the fuel sources in the brain. So when you look at that 80-year-old person, there's a lot more dimples and defects than there was in that 50s or 60s. But it is a progression throughout life. It doesn't have to be that way. It's just very normal to see that in today's world. Go to the next slide. So this is an irreversible problem, and just another way to see if you did have a stroke, this person's brain is missing in that section. So there is 0 brain there, and obviously it's not going to show up on the scan. But I'm comparing that to the one where it was the baseball injury where, no, their brain was still there. It just wasn't working. All right, so knowing those differences, I think this is an incredible teachable story. This is a 41-year-old brain. That is a young brain. When you're looking at it, that pink shows you that the eyeballs are looking down. But the amount of defects found in this diabetic's brain is, they've only had diabetes. They were diagnosed at 36. So only a few years of diabetes, a few years of their sugar being abnormal, but look at how much of their brain has gone offline because of the swelling, the inflammation from those sugars being not terrible. This guy's A1C was closer to like 7.6 or 7.7. So that's not terrible in the world of diabetes. But It's not good when you're looking at their brain. So go to the next one. This one is another late 30s, but when you look at how many defects are found in that brain, this is what happens with chronic alcohol. And again, their brain is swollen every time they drink. They cause an inflammation into the brain, and over time, the diabetics and the alcoholics, they look very similar. Trained eye can tell you what pattern differences are there, but just the kind of cursory look at those, you're like, holy Hannah, look at that. They look very similar. Go to the next one. All right, so this is the one that I wanted to point out. So this is a 29-year-old woman whose brain, I don't know that looking at these so quickly and so on Facebook, if you can appreciate how much of that person's brain is missing. So a 29-year-old, and the amount of damage done in their brain is profound. Not only does she have a mood disorder, meaning where she doesn't see her body correctly, she has gone to extreme anorexia, and her level of anemia was like one of the worst I've ever seen. And as you study brains that have mental health issues with malnourishment, there is this dual problem, kind of like people whose livers are swollen and big because of diabetes, filled with sugar because of diabetes, and then they drink alcohol. That's like gasoline on a fire. That anorexia of a mood disorder with the addition of a lacking of the micronutrients to repair her brain. I mean, I don't know. When I see that brain, it makes my heart so sad, because I'm like, oh my goodness, she is in such trouble. And she's young, 29. That's so young. That looks like a 90-year-old brain who's had MS. Just a couple more, and then I'll come back and bring this back to why I cared so much about this. So when you look at some of the things in a teenage brain, go to the next slide. 2 more slides will do. This little part of the brain is called the hippocampus. So the hippocampus is if I used to give this teenage lecture where I'd say, all right, if you want to be the smartest, most successful person in the room, the way you do that is you need to have the biggest, longest, thickest hippocampus in the classroom. And everybody kind of looks at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, this part of your brain doesn't start growing until about a year before puberty. And then it grows gangbusters as fast as possible until it stops around 26 years old. And during that time, if you get this really nice lengthening and fullness in your hippocampus, it predicts success. It predicts resilience. It predicts how you will learn things even when you're my age. It predicts how quickly you'll sort on danger versus not danger. And that part of your brain is so powerful that when you're in your teenage years, if you want to not be the most successful person in the room, stop growing it. And the 2 things that stop growing it are swelling and micronutrients deficient, being malnourished. So when I look at what I am doing for my kids, I want them to have the biggest, longest, thickest, fullest hippocampi possible, and then get out of my house and go try to do life. But when you're in my house and when you're my kids, or when you're my patients, I'm going to say, look, this teenage years has some really important problems and really important processes that happen if we don't address them and if we don't fix them. All right, one more slide. And this was just a quick flash to say, I've talked a couple of times on my channel about alcohol. And I just think this 15-year-old on the left is a non-drinker, hasn't ever had alcohol. The 15-year-old with the white, they are sober. It's a Wednesday, but they are a heavy drinker on the weekends. And I just think it's powerful to see how long the swelling in the brain lasts alcohol is a good, easy one to teach from. You put alcohol in that body and it does swell the brain. That's why we get loopy. That's why we get kind of funny. That's why it's almost like a concussion. But you get that, and the swelling doesn't go away, lickety split. It takes a while, and you have to be without the swelling for several weeks before that hippocampus starts to grow again. In fact, we think it's about 3 months of being at least sober for 3 months, and I would contend closer to 6 months before their hippocampus grows again. So that message that I'm trying to bring home, and you can bring us back. That's the slides I wanted to go through. That one talks about brain metabolism with Alzheimer's. I forgot to put that one in there. Yeah. So you say there's a normal brain. If you look at that kid with Alzheimer's or with that kid that's been drinking, his metabolism is less than my patient with Alzheimer's. I mean, that's a powerful statement. They are drinking, they are swelling their brain, and their malnourishment, because of that association, shuts down a brain and makes it very difficult to treat. And that is correlated to those mood disorders. That is correlated to a stuck learning. And which brings me back to some of the questions that have come in over the last week. So somebody asked me what I would do with a kiddo who's has anemia. And I said, well, boy or girl? And they said, it's my niece. She has been anemic. We're trying to get her to eat more meat and do keto. I'm like, oh, that's a great plan. But I wouldn't wait that long. If it was my daughter, I would absolutely put her on continuous birth control pills. And I mean that not for sexual protection, but to say, no, we are girls in the 21st century, and we need our brains to do absolutely all of the development and learning that the boy brains do without nearly as many obstacles. I think it's very interesting to learn that girls start having their period somewhere around 10, which is younger than it used to be. But if they have their period, let's just say 11, because the math works out really well. If they start having menstruation at 11, by the time they're 21 years old, they've had as many periods as they would have had in a lifetime in 1850. I mean, before birth control, when they were pregnant at much younger ages, they would spend 2 years nursing, pregnant, 2 years nursing, and the amount of menstruation that you have in a lifetime, young girls get by the time they're 21. And what that does is it decreases their iron. Those scans, the number one predictor of whether or not they could repair their brains when it came to nourishment, wasn't ketones. It was, do they have iron? If they are low on iron, it is one of the first building blocks to repair the brain. And we ask girls now, why do they have lower math scores by the time they're a senior in high school when they did great when they were in middle school? They have matched scores in middle school, but you get them into high school and then you get them into college, and girls do not perform as well in math. Why is that? Well, there is an overlapping theory that this is related to the amount of anemia associated with that and the brain development that goes with it. Wow. The other thing that I really get passionate about is, young girls, as they reach for scholarships in athletics, and we ask them to perform at incredibly intense athletics, and they get scholarships to do it. I want them to do that. But at the same time, somebody should be saying, quit having a period, quit spending that iron every month. And stabilize, you say it's not natural. I'm like, well, naturally you're supposed to be like pregnant at 14. That's going to lead to poverty and a whole other problems. Don't do that. But I also think that in today's world, the advancement of girls and how to get them and their brains properly developed is highly correlated to whether or not they suffer from anemia. And it is, if you're looking at iron storages, you cannot believe how it's almost 100% overlap by the time a mom brings their daughter to me. And they're saying, I just can't get her motivated. She was so good at dance. She was so good at this. Had all these friends. And then her mood went in the cow bucket. It went down so badly that I can't seem to find my daughter in this person. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, they've been anemic for 9 months by the time I see them. And their brain has stopped growing, and their hippocampus is smaller, and their math scores are less.
So how do we know they're anemic? How do we know this?
Yeah. Well, so step one is you live in America. You can go get a ferritin. Ferritin is the storage of iron. You could get iron studies with it, but ferritin in young girls is the first place that I check. I do lots of mission work. I've been to Haiti, and there's several exam things you can do to look at whether or not they're severely anemic. But so there's lots of ways to look, but don't skip. Just check their ferritin, check their blood test. And, when the mom said, can I just do keto? Can I give them ketones in a can? I'm like, those are great for decreasing cravings and improving her energy and, helping with like really strengthening her energy and metabolism. But you need to fix her brain, which starts with an anemia, with an iron problem, that it's going to take me 2 years to fix her iron the way you're doing it, because you're delivering a cup into the toilet every month. of blood that says, no, 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 we can't afford that in a developing brain. And I just think this conversation is something that I hear physicians have. I hear moms of teenage girls really hungry for, saying the brain development is critical. And if they're low on iron and you're trying to like cajole them into a better mood, I'm saying start with the chemistry, make sure they're not anemic, fix the anemia. I can do it. You can do it overnight. I mean, you can put iron in there. When my boys were low on iron, we put iron in their vein and said, fix it. I need it fixed now. He is developing boy. I don't have the place I don't need to do that. I don't live in Haiti. I live in America. I can take an IV iron and give it to him and he never had the problem again.
Yeah. I've gone for iron infusions and I used to go, in fact, before I did keto, every 4 to 6 months for years, I always had 2 bags of iron infusions, always. History showed that. But yeah, your doctor can order them. You take them and I think it takes a week to feel better, if I remember right.
It's amazing because your body will use that iron like that and you will start making better, heartier red blood cells. But more importantly, your brain will start to make some of the neurochemistry it needs to repair. And you'll get that with a ketogenic diet. But if you have a teenager whose mood is going in the drink, first of all, teach them to like liver. Second of all, get them to check their iron. It's really an amazing fix.
So you mentioned birth control though, as well, and iron. Those are 2 different things. So you have a moody teen. You first want to find out, are they anemic? And then you mentioned birth control. Talk a little bit through that. That's a tough thing to do for somebody who may not even be sexually active. By the way, this is a keto-friendly recipes page, but hey, we do talk a lot of keto science and all the benefits that come with keto. And this is the bonus that you get on top of the amazing recipes. So.
Right. Well, it was a question where they said, can I just do keto for this teenager? And I'm like, keto is amazing and it's a great maintenance, but you got to lift that teenager up a lot quicker. Their brain is developing. And so when I look at birth control, I look at, first of all, continuous birth control. Well, birth control is as if your body's pregnant on a very microscopic level, just enough to stop your eggs from ovulating, right? So it's a very tiny amount of hormone to stabilize their hormones while you fix all these other things. And when you're on continuous birth control, you don't have a period. You're not giving that blood to anybody else. Let your brain have that so that you use that to repair the mood and get them feeling stable again.
So when you say continuous, and sorry, I'm just digesting all this information. When you say continuous birth control, you're talking about you're giving them the pill, but not the break for the menstruation cycle. You're talking continuous to stop the period to fix the anemic problem. Oh, wow.
So there's ways you can do it. You can take the pill and that's great. And if they're teenagers and they're good about taking pills, that's awesome. But there's several other things. There's a device that can go in their arm that lasts for 3 years. And it's just a steady delivery of the hormone. So they don't have to remember to take the pill. It is actually really nice hormone coverage because it's very stable. It's not dependent on, what else did they take with it? Did they take it the same time every day? Did they absorb it? It's in their arm and it's unbelievably stable. There's another one you can use that's in the uterus, and that can be a little bit of a maturity issue for a young woman. That might not be the best option, but that lasts for 5 years. And all of them are the same chemistry in that they're delivering continuous hormones so you do not have a period. And the reason that matters is when the brain is hurt, when the brain is already in a slump, and you live in 2019 where a couple of years of being known as the, what do they call them, where they're all... My kids use a word and I probably shouldn't use it actually, where they're emojis, but they're emotional. There's a word, I can't remember what the word is. Anyway, where they're the teenagers who are even the teenagers call them emotional because they outburst and all I think of is, oh my goodness, they need stability in their hormones. And adding a menstruation.
That's so hard to wrap my brain around because kids in middle school, they're kids. And here we are having to worry about anemia and birth control and the mood swings. And it's, oh my gosh.
Yeah, this mom was incredibly, she wanted to help her child. Or I think it was an aunt, so her niece saying we were doing everything. I'm like, no, you got to start with some basic building blocks, and then trying to get you putting the weight on that teenager to say, take iron, eat liver, do keto. All that's like too heavy at first. You just need to get them feeling better. So having that device by saying, here's why we're doing this. You're losing blood. We need to stop doing that so that your brain can heal. That's why your emotions are going up and down. That's why, and then fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Once you do that, even if you take it out after 6 months after they're feeling better, I mean, it's not hard. It's just then the kid doesn't have to carry the whole weight of how do we help them? What's the fastest way to help them? And if it was my daughter, I would say, look, I want your brain to develop the best it can. It is such a commodity in how today's success of kids, whether you go to college, whether you ever use it, I just need your emotions and your spirit to match your growth of your brain. And that means you can't be low on iron or in a severely depressed mood for 2 out of the 4 years of high school, because that's how long it took keto to fix it.
So that's so interesting that your experience brings you to immediately low iron and anemia, because it's so popular that that's what's happening. Kathy brings a really good question out. She says, how does this impact the fertility in the future? I cannot talk tonight.
Yeah. So it's actually a protective factor. So as you know, I mean, most people know you have your eggs when you're born. And as a woman, they become more mature when you go through puberty. But then you age your brain, age your eggs as you have menstruation. When you're pregnant, the aging slows way down. So that's why if you've ever seen a woman trying to predict whether or not they're going to have a Down syndrome or something, if they're 42 having their first baby, we say, oh boy, the genetics of those eggs are a lot older. Unless they've paused the aging, or at least really slowed down the aging of those eggs by being on birth control for many years, or having been pregnant for many years, which you can think of birth control as kind of the fake pregnancy for their body thinks they're pregnant. That's why you don't have a period, but it's a much more stable mood as opposed to the cycling of your mood your cycling of your hormones which is supposed to prep you for pregnancy. Quit prepping for pregnancy. Don't do that in your teenage years. And especially if their mood has been low, man, check the anemia, and don't be afraid of saying, just put them on birth control. Don't let them have a period. Do this for a year and watch what happens.
Wow.
And I've had such success with that, with teenagers coming in. I mean, they come in and they've now reached for addictive properties. They've got, marijuana and heroin and alcohol and all these other things with their brains because they were saying, I just need to feel better. And you're like, stop, let me help you. And it's powerful. So I felt really called to have that message to folks, because I don't have, I have a wonderful girl living in my house now who's my adopted daughter, if you would, from China, but she eats keto and she is not anemic, but that's my job to check on that and to be part of that. I've walked alongside with moms just in tears because their gorgeous, driven, smart daughter got anemic and nobody knew. And then they couldn't figure out why her motivation went away, and her creativity faded, and her drive to, dance or play volleyball just went out the window, and now they're stuck. I mean, it's
well, so Roberta says, my 19-year-old daughter is a freshman in college and has emotional breakdowns once in a while. What can I do for her? Sounds like checking for anemia is the first step in that process. Is ferritin something that they check with these physicals that they get, hopefully, or is it something we have to request?
I would request it, because most doctors will look at a CBC and just take the cheap way out. And that's okay. But especially if it was my daughter, I'd be checking a ferritin. You can look at that. If it's under 20, you're in trouble. I like ferritins to be 50 and above for healthy brain development.
Wow. I'm writing this down. Must be 50 or above.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, when I took care of folks in Haiti and some of the folks in my shelter, that you would find ferritins in the single digits, and it was like they had shut off part of their brain. Like that picture of that anorexia, her ferritin was less than 4. It was so low that she could not repair her brain. And now she's 29. She's not a kid where we have all these adults surround her saying, look, let's take care of you. We feel responsible. Now you have this adult where they say, it's her decision. Well, good Lord, she can't make a decision. Did you see the brain scan? She needs us to make those decisions.
Do you find like I have such a passion or such a heart for people who suffer with mental health, and I know what keto has done for mental health for a lot of people that I know. Do you think this anemic starts anything in the mental health world? Does it lead to it? Like, I mean,
Yeah, it's quite an overlap because your things like serotonin and norepinephrine, these are neurotransmitters, but they all begin with a little bitty element of iron. And so if you don't have any, you can say, yeah, you can take Prozac and try to like not vacuum it away as quickly. But what the problem is you're 2 cups low of serotonin. You need more made. And in order to do that, you've got to start with iron. And so,
it's so mind blowing to me because somebody who's depressed, the first thing, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the first thing that they get is an antidepressant at the doctor? And really, first thing that should be checked is iron then.
Right. Well, even if you start the antidepressant today, it's not going to work for a couple of weeks. So starting it isn't as bad as if that's all they do. That's the danger. You want the kids better as fast as possible. But what I think is don't teach the kid that the answer was all about the pill. I mean, I really do a heavy amount of education saying this pill is to bridge until I fix all these things. Then you stop the pill and go on with your life. But in that process, over the last 3 years, it has been an unbelievable transition for my clinic that I start them on exogenous ketones saying, we're going to wake up a half of your brain with a different fuel right now. It's not going to do, I don't make any promises, but I am floored at how quickly I can get them feeling better by just switching the fuel chemically and then saying, I don't want you on I don't want you on exogenous ketones forever either. I want you using a life that you eat correctly and you feed your body what it needs to. And you were just super down. How do I lift you as quick as possible? Yeah. And that's been one of the best parts about that metabolic health summit is the connection to the scientists saying, we have proven 4 days, I can get 98% of your brain using a ketone as long as your blood levels are high enough.
Nice. And, yeah. We have a question I want to get to, but first I laughed at the comment that Belinda just said. She goes, wow, we went from cow heaters, feet soaked to anemic to birth control. She's like, I'm saving this to watch the replay. It's a lot of information. It is, and you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. So
we talk about this ahead of time. We talk about questions that people send to us, messages. By the way, we together get so many messages that we can't even answer them all. We try to do the best that we can, but if you have questions or comments, we try and get them live right here. That's the best way to get help. Yeah.
And it is, when I told Jennifer, I'm like, I really want to do this brain thing. I know it's not keto, but it's related to keto because they were trying to fix their kid with this. And I'm saying, wait a minute, the beauty of being a primary care physician, taking care of young girls for the last 20 years is this diet is amazing. And you're going to prevent a lot of problems by having it. But if you're coming in a state where your brain isn't working right, there are some, you live in 2019, we have some awesome things to help you.
Yeah.
And
well, Stephanie says, this makes so much sense. My ferritin was 19 6 months after having my daughter. I kept telling my doctor I just didn't feel like myself and was put on Wellbutrin for PPD. And she's like, I want to go back. I'm sorry, I missed one. Karen had a good one. She said, after menopause, do we need to worry about low iron?
Well, it's not, it is that your, menstruation, you donate a cup to the sewer system every month, right? So when looking at anemia, it's not nearly as prevalent as after menopause. But, I always think it's interesting to watch what physicians do to their own bodies. So I can remember when the intrauterine device came out that was for 5 years. And instead of taking the pill, you now put the chemical inside the uterus. And it wasn't like my mother's IUD, which was copper. It was, no, the kind of IUD that's plastic and gives me a drop of hormone. Because when you take the pill, you're trying to get the hormone to the uterus. But I'm telling you, every girl physician I knew was like, sign me up for that. Because it's the lowest amount of hormone that you can have. It stops the loss of iron. And I'm telling you, as physicians, and then you start trying to make babies and you get anemic, oh my goodness, it's like a career killer. So every girl I knew, every physician girl I knew was like, oh, I'm getting that. And then, so then you say, well, then when the women would go through menopause, they would be like, well, so what do most women at menopause do? And the answer was everybody made sure that their iron stayed steady, that it was something that they would proactively check because it's so important for the cognitive performance. And
yeah.
so,
And just to let you know, in my own journey, I had been seeing an endocrinologist for years. I mean, years. They knew me by first name. I went in after I did the diet for, I think, 4 months, and she's like, oh, did you come into your appointment early? Because I'm on rotating. I know you're about to drop in iron. I know when to give it to you. And I was like, wait, did I come early? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, what's different? And I said, well, I kind of changed the way I eat. She's, no, you're about to drop off. Come back next month. I go back next month. She's like, what is going on? And I had to pull all of your history because you have never in your life done. What is happening? And I mentioned keto, and she's like, yeah, I don't know what that means, but whatever you're doing, keep it up because it's working. And then just for grins, we scheduled the next month because she just swore that I would drop off. And I haven't been back since. So it's a really Hey, we do have a question though. As I was scrolling back, Vicky says, can keto increase ferritin to high levels?
So it shouldn't. So keto is, so ferritin is something called an acute phase reactant. And so like, what do those words mean? So if I'd come over and let's say we went to a kickboxing workout and you got a nice big bruise on your arm, your body's acute, meaning short reaction to an injury would mean that your ferritin would rise. If you got a break in your leg, the acute, meaning the short acting response of your body would be your ferritin would rise. So it's one of those proteins that an injury can raise it. But rarely would a ketogenic diet send it too high. You would have a return of ample supply of meat. I mean, because there's just a lot of meat that's usually in a ketogenic diet. That's not always, but I find it's very common. And again, that nutrient dense foods that become very satiating and part of our just normal gig after you've had 6 months of keto, it becomes like their ferritins are, I mean, I find a lot less of them the longer they've been on a ketogenic diet. So I don't find it over. There are other things that push it high, and those are usually something is brewing. There's been a reaction. So yeah, that's hopefully it makes sense. That's
wow.
Kind of a long answer.
Well, first of all, I have to give a shout out to Miss Chris D. She is the one that helps moderate these talks every Sunday night. And her husband usually tunes in until we start talking about menstruation and anemia and all this other stuff. So I imagine he tuned out long ago. I just really appreciate the work that she does to help these conversations go on. So I had to say thanks. We are at the top of the hour, and I definitely want to respect your time. You guys, I will put the link in to watch all of the Dr. Boz replays because there is a special page on the website where we do load those. And if you have something that you want us to talk about, if there is a problem that you're doing, or a problem that you're experiencing, something that has to do with keto that you just don't understand, Dr. Boz and I go back and we read the comments. We read even when it's a replay, and we try and pick out the best, most helpful, and we do lineups. We prep for these calls. So if you have something that you need help with, the best way to get to us is to put a comment here because we both look at those, and we are happy to do what we can to spread the knowledge. And Dr. Boz, I always appreciate you coming on. You can check her out on YouTube. She has tons of informational videos. Can you tell them real quick? Can you show them your book any way you can?
Yes, any way you can. This is the bread and butter for how we fund those. So I appreciate everybody who's left a book review on Amazon. It's so nice. I'm over 700 book reviews and like 98% positive or something. So 5 stars. So
I bought one for my husband, and then we bought one for tons of other people. It's easy when you buy one and you realize the value. It's not just it is a story about how she took her skills and helped her mom battle cancer. But more importantly, it takes you through that story and explains to you why keto works. It is a teaching tool for if you, and everybody experiences something different. Your goals for keto are something different, but I guarantee you, there will be sections in this book. There will be chapters in there that you will go back and go, wait a minute, that's me. That's me. And it's super helpful. So grab the Dr. Boz any way you can book. Don't forget to order keto-friendly recipes. It's on Amazon. It's going to be out May the 7th. You can get pre
awesome.
until then. And I just want to say, great talk.
Yes, it was awesome. Thanks for letting me riff on girl brains.
Yeah, thanks for your time. You guys have a wonderful night. We'll talk to you later.
See you next week.
Please subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos. Stay tuned.